as money. Gold coins were used as money. Silver coins were used as money. And when there was a shortage of gold and silver coins in the market, then in Medina they would use dates as money. Obviously, you could only use dates as money for microtransactions. Can't buy this house with dates. So wheat, barley, dates, and salt were used as money. There are some people who are going to be offended about this. And they would want to quarrel with the Prophet. You see, these people have more knowledge than the Prophet. Why are you using dates as money? How archaic, how backward. Leave them in their ignorance. Don't bother to argue with such people. Don't, just leave them and move. So let's get back to our subject and get rid of these people. Cumbersome people. So now we know that money in Islam is either precious metals, gold and silver, or commodities of food consumption, which are in abundant supply in the market, which have a shelf life. And so if you are in the Indonesian island of Java, and you are in your market and you want to use the Sunnah money in your market, and there is a shortage of gold and silver coins, you would use rice as money in that market. And if you were in the Caribbean island of Cuba, and of course you are all aware that Fidel Castro no longer smokes cigars, and you want to restore the Sunnah money, you would use, not tobacco, you would use sugar as money. Forget about these people who sneer at you and laugh at you and say that is so backward. We don't want to hear your voice. Get out. Get out. We don't want you in our company. How do we proceed from here? In addition to this being money in the Quran, in the Sunnah, we know something else about it. That in every instance, the money which is in the Sunnah is money which has value, which resides in the money. That value can fluctuate. We are not dumb-dumbs. You don't have to lecture to us. That value can fluctuate, of course. But at all times, the value resides in the money. Not in some bank in Lower Manhattan. No. And thirdly, the value of the money is a value bestowed to it by Allah, who alone creates wealth from nothing. We have, in several instances in the last 2-3 weeks that I have been here, we have said that Allah is Al-Khaliq, the one who creates. That He is more than that, He is Al-Fatir, the one who originates from point of origin. Fatir, Fatarat Samawati wal Ard, the originator of the Samawat and the Ard. And that He is more than that, He is Badi'us Samawati wal Ard. Only He creates from nothing. So if you attempt to create from nothing and play God, I pity you when you can't go down in the grave. I pity you when you are in the grave. Now then, this is money in Islam, in the Sunnah. And when we leave the Sunnah and we go to the Quran, to look at money in the Quran, what do we find? In Surah Surah Ali Imran, is it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the curious conduct of the Jews. وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ, and amongst them there are those, إِن تَأْمَنْهُ بِقِنْطَارٍ, if you entrust with him a treasure of gold, enough to buy this house, يُؤَدِّهِ, like when you want back your money, he gives it back to you. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ إِن تَأْمَنْهُ بِدِينَارٍ, but amongst them there are those, if you were to entrust him with a dinar, لَا يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ, he will not return it to you. What's wrong? In what way am I different from him? I mean, you return his qintar, you wouldn't return my dinar. إِلَّا مَا دُمْتَ عَلَيْهِ قَائِمًا, the only way you can get back your dinar is if you stand there pounding and demanding it back. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا, now we get the reason. The reason for this double standard is because قَالُوا لَيْسَ عَلَيْنَا فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ السَّبِيلُ, we have no moral obligations to these cockroaches. They are an inferior class of human beings. We are the chosen of the Lord. Heaven is reserved for us. So in our eyes, they're like cockroaches. So we can rip them off. وَيَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ, but they tell a lie against Allah. They tell a lie against Allah, that they have no moral obligations to those who are ummiyun, the Gentile, who are not Jews. And they do it knowingly. In this verse of the Quran, I'm so tired I can't remember if it is Surah to Ali Imran. I believe it is. If I make a mistake, all of you too will know it's a mistake. In this verse of the Quran, Allah speaks about the dinar. The dinar. And the dinar in the Quran is not made of paper. It's a gold coin. And then in Surah to Yusuf, the little boy Yusuf alayhi salam was put down into the well. And then the travelers came and they fished him out. And they took him to Misr, which is not the whole of Egypt. Today Misr is the whole of Egypt. But at that time Misr was that part of Egypt where the Jews used to live. The eastern delta, from the river Nile to the river Euphrates. وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ وَكَانَ فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ, and they sold him for a few measly dirhams. And they did this because they considered him to be a thing of little value. So in this verse of the Quran, Allah uses the word dirham. And He uses it in the context of buying and selling. And so, and of course, this dirham is not made of paper. It's a silver coin. And so, we now have the astonishing news, astonishing for those fellows out there who are grunting and grinding their teeth, astonishing news that money in the Quran is gold dinar and silver dirham. That is in the Quran. It's a bit late in the day to attempt to change the Quran now. Money has therefore been identified. So then now, why was it haram and riba to have the exchange of dates which was unequal? And why was it halal you could have an unequal exchange of durians? No problem. Answer? Because dates were used as money in that market. That is why it had to be